Hello and welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. Today we are taking a look at the new outside-in stitched mug and the stitched mug frame. These two die sets coordinate together and they will layer on top of each other so you can create some fun mug creations. So let's take a look at these and make some cards. So these two will coordinate together and you can see that they are exactly the same size. This one will cut out a stitching detail for a solid mug, and this one will create a frame so you can make fun shaker cards, which we're going to do today in this video. So for my first card, I'm just going to make a plain mug, and I'm going to be using some pattern papers from the Let It Shine paper pack. I'm going to be cutting my mug from that fun red with the gold foil dots, which I just think is so pretty. I also wanted to create a little koozie to wrap around my mug, so I also cut that same stitched mug from some rainforest cardstock, and I'm using the edge of the die as a guide to draw a line that's similar in shape to the top of the mug. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to flip it over. So you could do it either way depending on the look that you want. So I wanted it to look kind of rounded, so I'm going to have a rounded top and a rounded bottom. And I'm just tracing a pencil line with the edge of the die, just so it's nice and even, and I'll use my scissors to cut that out. And I drew my lines where they connect to the inside of the handle there. And that's kind of my starting point, but actually I ended up trimming it down just a little bit. So I made it a little bit bigger so that I had some wiggle room to trim it down if I wanted. So once I got it on the mug and then I actually had that stitched heart that the die also has, I just trimmed it down a little bit so that the heart fit on there nicely and it was a little skinnier and the heart could overhang on the top and the bottom. So here is what that's going to look like. You can see how I trimmed it down so that heart overlaps at the top and the bottom. I'm also using the gingerbread die set to make a little gingerbread man here, and he's going to hang out inside my mug, which I just think is super fun. So I've cut the front of him from some paper bag cardstock, and then I've cut a solid one without the face from some ground espresso. And I'm just going to layer that behind so that his face is a darker brown and you can see that. I've also cut out some of his little details like the bow tie and some icing details from Pixie Dust cardstock so they're sparkly. So I'm just going to add all these and go ahead and finish him off. So he's got that little curly hair detail at the top. And then we also have some squiggles to create a little waistline for him and also some cuffs on his sleeves. I'm also going to add some little pink cheeks to him as well, which you can see they're cut in that little bowl there. And I also die cut the hearts, which are from this die set, but I did not end up using them on him, but I did use it on the card elsewhere. So now he's all put together and he's just going to fit inside the mug. I'm also using the top of this cupcake and it looks like whipped cream, and I just think that's a fun added detail. So I've just cut that from some white cardstock. And then I wanted to add a little more interest to my little koozie here. So I'm just going to go in with a stencil and some white ink and add some little stars and dots to this. So I'm going to give it its own pattern, which you could also cut this from pattern paper. And then I'm also going in with a little distressing and I'm darkening up the edges just to kind of define it a little more and make it stand out from the coffee mug in the background. So I'm just going to add some liquid glue to the back of this and I'm going to put that right on my mug. And I like how those stitching details continue all around the edge because I used a die cut to create the koozie. Then for the little heart, I'm actually going to put some thin foam squares on the back of it so it pops up a little bit and has a little bit of dimension. So for my card base, I'm going to be using some of the Let It Shine paper. This is the cream color, and I'm going to use the stripe side. So I'm just adding some adhesive to the back, and I've cut it with the largest of the cross-stitched rectangles, so it'll completely cover my card base, but I'll have this nice subtle pattern in the background. So I'm going to be cutting the spoon from the silver metallic cardstock, which I just think has a really fun look. And then I'm also going to cut just the spoon part of the spoon, not the handle, from some of that ground espresso, which I think looks like chocolate. And I'm going to be cutting this in such a way that it looks like we've made one of those chocolate dip spoons. You know those that you get at the holidays? It has a spoon that's been dipped in chocolate and it has some fun sprinkles on it. So that was kind of the idea here. So this is just a spoon that's got some chocolate on it. I'm also going to use the little popsicle stick die from I Scream You Scream to cut that pink striped pattern paper to look like a straw. So I'm going to glue my chocolate that I cut for my spoon, just so my spoon's all one piece. And then now I'm going to start to assemble some of my pieces onto the card base. I put some foam adhesive on the back of my mug, and I'm going to put that close to the bottom of the card so that I have room for all these goodies coming out of the top. And then I'm going to add my little gingerbread guy. So he's going to kind of be hanging out on the right side of the mug, kind of overhanging a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment so that I make sure that it's in there and I don't put all my elements to where I don't leave room for that. So I want to go ahead and get that stamped. And I'm using one of the sentiments from the Shutter Card Sentiments. And then now I'm going to go ahead and add some of these other pieces that I've cut. So I'm putting in the spoon, and I realize this is backwards. I know you don't normally put the spoon with the handle side in the cup, but I just liked the look of that chocolate. So I'm going to use the spoon in my next card in the correct direction. But I just think this is fun. It looks like one of those crazy milkshakes that you get at restaurants now with all that crazy stuff on top. So this one's got a gingerbread cookie, and it's got some fun candy straws and a chocolate spoon, and I just think it's super cute. So I'm adding that little straw that I cut, and then I'm going to add some Stardust Stickles to the whipped cream so it has some sparkle and that stands out a little bit because it kind of fades away with all these other elements, and that glitter just makes the whipped cream stand out like its own special element as well. And then I also wanted to add the little marshmallows. So this is just a really fun cup of hot cocoa with all these fun things in it. So I've got the little marshmallows, and then I'm actually going to add little faces to these guys. So you could use the faces from Peas on Earth, or I'm going to use the faces from the gumball set because there's a lot more. And I really like the one that has the glasses. I just think it's fun. And I also like this one with his tongue sticking out because I think that goes really well with the idea of this super sweet, over the top hot chocolate that we've got here. So I'm just stamping these little faces in some gray ink so that they don't stand out too much. They're more subtle. And then I'm just going to add these little marshmallows along the bottom. And then here's those two little hearts I cut earlier. And I just decided to add those to the whipped cream, just like some sprinkles that were added there. And I just think they're a really nice finishing touch to this. And then here is that finished card, that hot cocoa with all those sweet treats coming out the top and the marshmallows at the bottom, and I just think it's so cute. So for my second card, I'm going to be using the frame and making a shaker card, but first I'm going to start with my background. So I've cut a stitch rectangle from some mermaid cardstock, and then I'm going to lay it onto the quilted backdrop die. So you can see this is slightly smaller. It's the largest of the outside in stitch rectangle, so we're going to have a little bit of a border around it. So I'm just centering it up in that quilted backdrop, and I'm just going to hold it where I want it with a little bit of washi tape. So now I have this fun background. I've added some liquid glue all over the back, and I'm going to layer it onto this ballet slipper card base that I've created. So you're going to get that nice pink border around this mermaid, and then you'll get that pink peeking through those quilting details from the die. So for my mug, I've cut the solid mug from peacock cardstock and the frame from rainforest cardstock. I've also cut the frame from some white cardstock about 8 times, and I'm going to stack these to create my shaker. You could also use craft foam, just whatever works best for you. And then I've also cut my spoon from that same silver metallic just like before. And then I've got my whipped cream again. I'm going to use that on this one again, and I've cut it from some pixie dust cardstock. So it already has the sparkle built in on this card. I've also cut the Scripty wishes from some brown sparkle cardstock, so it kind of has that coffee or hot chocolate feel. And I'm putting the spoon inside the mug this time, so this is going to be inside the shaker, and all my shaker pieces are going to move around on top of that. So I've already got the spoon in place, and now I'm going to work on creating my shaker box. So I'm just going to start stacking these die cut frames. And I think I have about 8 here. You just need to stack as many as you need to get it to the height that you want. So once I have all of these stacked up, I'm actually going to take the whipped cream and add it to the back of them. So I'm doing this so that I don't glue it too far down to where you see the bottom of it. I want it to hide behind the frame. So that's why I glued it to the frame rather than to the solid piece of the mug in the background. And then now I can take this whole piece and add it to that solid mug. You could also cut all these frames out of a colored cardstock if you like, to where they kind of hide a little bit. But I actually kind of liked the white on this card. So I'm putting some thin adhesive on the back of the frame that's going to go on the front. And then I used the solid mug die to cut a piece of acetate as well. And I'm just going to layer that on the back side of this mug frame that's going to go on the front. And of course, this is going to be the part where you see all those shaker pieces through. It's going to trap those pieces inside. So the die will cut these little coffee beans, which are really cute. It also cuts a whole bunch of hearts that you could use in your shaker cards. So I've cut those pieces as well. And I'm going to prep my shaker box here by putting some anti-static powder to get any adhesive that might still be sticky to where it's unsticky and these pieces don't stick to it. You can see I've cut my hearts and my coffee beans, so I'm going to add those in. And then I've also got some sequins and some browns and creams to kind of look like coffee or hot chocolate. And then I'm also going to add some clear seed beads to the mix as well, because seed beads really help these sort of flat pieces move around a little bit more. So now to close up our little shaker box we've made, I'm putting some adhesive around the frame. And you can see that little gray string that's cut there. That's also from the die set that the little tea bag tag goes on. I'm going to take that, I'm going to figure out where I want it, and I'm going to kind of tuck it between the rainforest cardstock frame and the white frame as I glue these together so that it's hidden and it looks like it's coming out of the cup. And then there's a little slit on the tag here, and it's going to fit right inside of that slit. And then I was going to just glue this to the edge of my coffee cup frame, but I decided to scrape off that glue and add a little foam square so it's popped up a little bit off the face. So I'm just putting that foam square on the frame, and I'll just stick that tag right to it. And I like how this tag cuts stitching details around the outside as well as the little stitch detail heart. And so now all those shaker pieces are trapped inside and shake around in there, which I just think is adorable. So now for the Scripty wishes that I cut earlier from some glitter cardstock, I'm going to stack this so it has some height, just like the cup and the shaker frame. So I've cut the same die from some ground espresso cardstock 4 times, and I'm just stacking those, and then finally I'll stack the glitter one on top. So now I have this nice thick sentiment that stands out from the background like my coffee cup does as well. I've also got a little banner here that I cut from Guava Cardstock to match that tag, and I'm just going to place it kind of where I want it, and I'm going to be stamping the word warm on this so that my sentiment says warm wishes. I'm going to be using Harold's ABCs to stamp the word warm. So I'm just going to place all those on a clear block. And I like to test my stamping before I stamp it on my final project. Make sure that those alphabet letters are lined up well. So I've just got a piece of scrap here, and I'm going to be stamping this with some walnut ink so that it matches the brown of the die cut word wishes. So I'm making sure it fits nicely, and I'm just going to stamp that down. And then now I can just add it to the card. So I've got some adhesive on the back of it. I'm just getting the placement. And I'm going to go ahead and glue down that wishes part. And then before I'm done, I need to add the dot to the eye. So you can see I've kept all my little dots from when I die cut that sentiment out of all that brown cardstock. And I'm just stacking the dots too so that you get that nice added detail of the eye matching the sentiment below. So I'm stacking 4 of those brown dots, and then finally I have the glittery one that goes on top. And then I can just trim off that banner off the side. And now I'm ready to glue down my shaker coffee cup. And then here's that finished card. I love all those shaker bits inside, especially the pink hearts, and I just love how you can see the spoon through the mug. I just think that's so much fun. Now let's take a look at some examples from the design team. Audrey created this super sweet card. I love her candy cane and the holly on the front, and I just love the colors that she used. Elise created this fun set of cards using Louie's ABCs for her sentiments, and I just love those patterned paper mugs that she used for the background. Megan created a fun fall card with a pumpkin spice latte that has those shaker bits inside, and I just love the pumpkin and the hedgehog that create the whole scene on the card. I love Elena's shaker card with all those super sweet details, and I love her use of the plaid paper for the background, and that Scripty cheers sentiment is perfect. Grace created a super sweet shaker card, and I love how she used the oval dice to create a saucer below her mug. I just think that's so clever. Kara created a really fun card, and these little mice are hiding inside this mug making a gingerbread house. I just think that's so cute and so much fun. Tammy created a really fun slimline card, and I love how she stacked the mugs and added the snowflakes and the hearts for her details. And I love all those gingerbread men hanging out with those mugs full of hot chocolate. Here is a card I made that has the cute little bears from Snow Much Fun hanging out inside that mug, and I just love that bear holding the marshmallow. Grace paired her mug with these stitched cupcake dies, creating the whipped cream as well as a sweet cupcake to go with her mug full of fun. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.